Local lawmakers tonight pressing the state for answers as Newcap prepares to close. For months, that nonprofit facing scrutiny under finances and oversight, leading to its CEO no longer working for that organization.
And in a letter sent today, the state's Joint Legislative Audit Committee citing concerns about Newcap's financial management and says the nonprofit is expected to close now by June 30th. Lawmakers are demanding Department of Administration contracts and payment records dating back to 2022, details on how the state will recover any money owed, and what happens to taxpayer-funded buildings and equipment during this shutdown. Samantha Cavalli tells us what comes next.
Hundreds of low-income families across the region could soon lose critical housing support as Newcap moves to close.
This is not something that anyone wanted, but ultimately there needs to be some accountability.
In a letter Tuesday, State Representative David Steffen asked the Attorney General's office to investigate, saying it's still unclear whether any wrongdoing rises to the level of a crime.
It is not illegal to be stupid. It's not illegal to waste your money. And so is that all that we're dealing with here is incompetence, mismanagement, and abuse, which is bad enough in and of itself. But that's different than being a crime.
Federal filings and an independent audit show Newcap under major financial strain, reporting a $2 million loss in 2023 and a 2024 growing concern warning, citing substantial doubt it can keep operating. Here at the Newcap office in Green Bay, we saw lights on inside and wanted to go in to ask questions about Newcap's closing. We were met with the doors open and no one could be found inside.
At minimum, it's mismanagement. It could be worse than that, but we don't know that.
State Senator Jamie Wall says the closure impacts taxpayers and the people Newcap served. He says 134 households in Northeast Wisconsin depend on HUD-funded rent assistance, and lawmakers are pushing to move those dollars to another agency.
They didn't do anything wrong, and it's a shame if they have to suffer for what was clearly at best mismanagement and among the leadership of Newcap.
Local providers say the shutdown came with little warning, and they're asking anyone affected to reach out now so services can be transferred and housing isn't lost.
The community is here to wrap around those individuals, right? Like we don't want people to be walking through this alone. This was unexpected for all of us.
Officials are now working to move HUD-funded assistance to other agencies. In Green Bay, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.